The knock on my front door came exactly at midnight, 3 months after my divorce had destroyed everything I thought I knew about love. I wasn't expecting anyone. I hadn't spoken to friends in weeks, my family lived hundreds of miles away, and no one ever visited my small house at that hour. When I opened the door, I nearly forgot how to breathe. Standing under the pale porch light was my ex-wife's younger sister, holding a worn leather suitcase in one hand and a folded envelope in the other. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked at me and made a request so shocking that it felt like the world had suddenly tilted beneath my feet. She wanted me to marry her. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes that broken hearts can love again, and subscribe to the channel, A Journey of Hearts. Your support helps heartfelt stories reach people who may need hope today. 3 months earlier, I had signed the divorce papers with trembling hands. My name is Thayer Quinn. I was 38 years old and worked as a civil engineer. For almost 12 years, I had been married to a woman named Seraphine Voss. When we first met, she seemed like the answer to every lonely prayer I had ever whispered. She was beautiful without trying to be. She loved books, rainy afternoons, and baking cinnamon bread on weekends. We traveled together. Bought our first house together. Dreamed about having children. And for a while, life was good. Then small cracks began appearing. She became distant. Conversations became shorter. Phone calls were answered in another room. Weekends that once belonged to us slowly filled with excuses. I blamed stress. She blamed exhaustion. Neither of us admitted what was really happening. One evening, nearly 2 years before our divorce, I discovered messages on her laptop. They weren't romantic at first. Just casual conversations with a coworker. But eventually they turned into something deeper. Confessions. Plans. Dreams about a future that didn't include me. When confronted, Seraphine cried. She apologized. She promised to end it. For a while, I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Love has a strange way of making people ignore truths they desperately don't want to face. Months later, I learned the relationship had never ended. She had simply become better at hiding it. That betrayal broke something inside me. Not because she loved someone else. But because she watched me trying to save our marriage while already planning an escape. The divorce was quiet. No screaming. No public arguments. Just 2 exhausted people signing papers in a lawyer's office. She moved into an apartment with the man she had chosen. And I remained behind. Alone. The house suddenly felt enormous. The silence became unbearable. I stopped cooking proper meals. Stopped exercising. Stopped answering calls. I spent evenings sitting on the porch watching sunlight disappear behind neighboring rooftops. Sometimes I replayed old memories. Her laughter during road trips. Our wedding dance. The day we painted our bedroom walls together. Then I remembered the lies. And every good memory turned bitter. The only person from her family who occasionally checked on me was her younger sister. Her name was Uriah Voss. She was 30 years old and worked as a pediatric nurse. Unlike Seraphine, Uriah was quiet. Gentle. The kind of person who remembered birthdays and sent handwritten cards during holidays. She had always treated me kindly. But after the divorce, she became more distant. Perhaps she felt guilty because we remained connected through painful circumstances. Or perhaps she simply didn't know what to say. The last time I saw her was at the courthouse. She hugged me briefly. Then disappeared into the crowd. Until that midnight. She stood trembling outside my door. Wearing jeans, a gray sweater, and sneakers covered in dust. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She looked exhausted. Lost. Broken. I invited her inside. She sat on my couch clutching the envelope tightly. For several minutes she said nothing. Only stared at the floor. Then she finally handed me the envelope. Inside was a letter. Written by her father. The words explained everything. 2 months earlier, he had been diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. Doctors estimated he had only a few months left to live. His greatest regret was knowing that Uriah would be left alone. She had sacrificed years caring for her aging parents. She postponed relationships. Ignored career opportunities abroad. She devoted herself entirely to family. Now her father feared dying while believing his youngest daughter would spend the rest of her life alone. He had one final wish. He wanted to see her married before he passed away. But there was a problem. Uriah wasn't engaged. She wasn't even dating anyone. And according to relatives, there wasn't enough time. They suggested arranging introductions. Meeting potential husbands. Finding someone quickly. But she refused. Then she made a decision that shocked everyone. She thought about the one man she trusted completely. The one man who had shown patience, loyalty, and compassion even after being betrayed. That man was me. She admitted she wasn't asking for romance. She wasn't asking me to replace my former marriage. She simply wanted companionship. A legal marriage. Someone her father already knew and respected. Someone who could help fulfill his dying wish. She promised she expected nothing more. No physical relationship. No emotional obligations. Only kindness. Only friendship. Only enough time to let an old man leave this world peacefully. I sat there speechless. Part of me wanted to refuse immediately. I had barely survived one marriage. The idea of another felt impossible. Another part of me felt angry. Was I merely a convenient solution? A safe option? A substitute groom chosen because I happened to be available? Yet when I looked at Uriah, I didn't see manipulation. I saw desperation. A daughter terrified of disappointing the man who had spent his entire life protecting her. For several days, I wrestled with the decision. I barely slept. Friends advised against it. They called it absurd. Complicated. Unhealthy. Perhaps they were right. But then I visited her father at the hospital. He looked frail. Much older than his 68 years. Machines surrounded his bed. Photographs covered the nightstand. Family vacations. Birthday celebrations. Children smiling beneath Christmas trees. And among those pictures was one from my wedding to Seraphine. He smiled weakly when he saw me. His eyes filled with tears. He apologized repeatedly for what his eldest daughter had done. He said I deserved happiness. Then he confessed something heartbreaking. He worried constantly about Uriah. She had dedicated her entire adulthood to others. She never asked for anything. Never complained. Never pursued dreams. He wanted her to have someone dependable after he was gone. Walking out of that hospital room, I realized something. Sometimes people don't need grand love stories. Sometimes they simply need someone willing to stand beside them during their darkest season. A week later, I agreed. We married quietly. Only immediate family attended. No elaborate decorations. No honeymoon. No promises about forever. Just two lonely people signing papers while an old man watched with tears of gratitude shining in his eyes. For the first time in months, I saw genuine peace on his face. 3 weeks later, he passed away. Uriah was devastated. She cried for days. I cooked meals. Handled paperwork. Answered calls from relatives. Stayed awake during nights when grief became overwhelming. Slowly, life settled into an unusual rhythm. We shared the same house, yet lived almost like roommates. She worked long hospital shifts. I returned to engineering projects. We respected each other's boundaries. We rarely discussed the future. Neither of us expected anything beyond companionship. But life has strange ways of changing hearts. One evening I came home exhausted after a difficult meeting. I found freshly baked bread cooling on the kitchen counter. A handwritten note wished me luck for an upcoming presentation. Another day she noticed I still kept old wedding photographs hidden inside a drawer. Without judging me, she suggested creating a memory box. Not to erase the past, but to honor it and move forward. She listened when nightmares woke me. She encouraged me to reconnect with old friends. She reminded me to eat healthier. She planted flowers in the neglected backyard. Gradually, laughter returned to the house. Months passed. Then one afternoon I visited the hospital unexpectedly to bring her lunch. As I walked through the pediatric ward, I saw something beautiful. Uriah sat beside a little boy undergoing chemotherapy. She wore a ridiculous paper crown. She pretended to be a queen protecting her kingdom from imaginary dragons. Children around her laughed loudly. Parents smiled through tears. For a moment, I understood why her father worried about losing her. People like Uriah are rare. They give endlessly, even when their own hearts ache. That realization frightened me, because I had started looking forward to hearing her footsteps in the morning. I noticed when she changed hairstyles. I smiled whenever she sang softly while washing dishes. Without realizing it, affection had quietly grown inside me. But fear followed. What if she still considered our marriage temporary? What if confessing my feelings ruined everything? Then another unexpected event happened. Seraphine appeared at our door. Nearly a year had passed since our divorce. She looked thinner, sadder. Her relationship had ended. She admitted she had made terrible mistakes. She said seeing her sister and me together made her understand what genuine loyalty looked like. She asked for forgiveness. I forgave her. But I felt nothing romantic. Only gratitude. Because losing her had eventually led me toward someone extraordinary. After Seraphine left, Uriah seemed withdrawn. Perhaps she worried I would choose my past over our present. Perhaps she feared our arrangement had reached its end. Days later, I found her sitting alone in the garden her father had once loved. She stared at blooming roses while tears rested quietly on her cheeks. That was when I finally understood. She wasn't the only person who had married out of necessity. I had agreed initially out of sympathy. But somewhere along the journey, sympathy transformed into admiration. Admiration transformed into friendship. Friendship transformed into love. Not dramatic love. Not youthful obsession. But mature love. The kind built slowly through shared grief. Through small acts of care. Through showing up every day. I told her everything. I admitted I no longer saw her as my ex-wife's sister. I no longer saw her as a responsibility. I saw her as the woman who taught me that trust can exist after betrayal. That happiness can grow from painful beginnings. That hearts shattered into pieces can still create something beautiful. She cried. Not because she was sad. But because she confessed she had secretly fallen in love with me months earlier. She simply believed I would never feel the same. Our second wedding ceremony happened 6 months later. This time it wasn't an obligation. It wasn't a promise made for someone else's comfort. It belonged entirely to us. Friends attended. Neighbors celebrated. Hospital staff came carrying flowers. And we placed a framed photograph of her father beside the ceremony table. It felt as though he was there smiling proudly. Special request: comment below with the words, "Love finds a way," if you believe that even broken hearts deserve another chance at happiness. Before this story ends, if it touched your heart even a little, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment telling us what moved you the most, and subscribe to A Journey of Hearts. Your support allows these stories to reach people silently struggling with loss, loneliness, and disappointment. Today, when people ask how I met my wife, I smile because the answer sounds unbelievable. She arrived at my door at midnight carrying a suitcase and asking for a marriage that wasn't supposed to involve love. What neither of us knew was that healing often arrives wearing unexpected faces. Sometimes life closes one door so completely that we spend months staring at it, mourning what was lost. Meanwhile, another door quietly opens behind us. Not with fireworks. Not with perfect timing. But with kindness. Patience. And people willing to stay when leaving would be easier. After my divorce, I thought my story had ended. Instead, it was only the painful chapter before the beginning of something far more meaningful. Because true love isn't always found in passionate first meetings. Sometimes it grows gently between two wounded souls who decide to help each other survive. And in doing so, they accidentally discover that they were never merely saving one another. They were finally coming home.